Morning. Who doesn't want to talk about organ donation? Yeah, me. Why, though? Is it because we haven't had much taught to us growing up? Is it because it's a bit of a taboo subject that still remains? Or is it, well, in my case, it's because it just seems a bit icky? So ironically today, I find myself here to talk to you about organ donation and how we in Wales should really be approaching organ donation from grassroots level to integrate it among our culture and beyond. 10 years ago, the unimaginable happened to me. Whilst crossing a road with my family, my husband, Stewie, and my son, Fraser, who we call Bear, were hit by a car in front of my 3.5-year-old daughter and myself. Now, this was ironically just 5 days after Wales became the first home nation to adopt our soft opt-out law change. Now, for those that don't know, opt-out means that if you haven't signed the opt-out register, then your organs are automatically deemed your consent. What happened to me then became and showed me really how different those thoughts were at the coalface. We went in an ambulance to the hospital, and when I was there, I had to go and identify my husband's body. He was 43, and he'd actually joined the organ donation register, and they raised with me, has he consented to donation? I said yes, and quite rightly I was whisked off to be with my 7.5-year-old son. When I was with him, he was there with the machines, and the medics approached me and said that they thought that Fraser was brain dead. Those words, the worst words that any mother can hear, especially after saying goodbye to his father. I fought with them, and Fraser then got transferred to Bristol Hospital. And when at Bristol Hospital, after travelling down the actual same road that the incident had just happened on, they raised with me again, have you thought about organ donation? Now, at this point, Fraser, albeit breathing through a machine, there was not a mark on him. And yet again, the question, have you thought about organ donation? Now, I had 3 things in my favour, if you can call it that. First of all, I used to be a practicing solicitor, and therefore I understood the process and the understanding of brainstem death. But what you read in a textbook when you're looking at your 7-year-old child without a mark on it, especially after that trauma, is difficult to comprehend. Secondly, I'd given blood just 3 weeks before, so I knew the extent of the questions that were going to be asked. Things like, had I been bitten by a bat? Had I been around South America? But finally, and probably the most important one, was that Stewie and I had had a conversation just 2 weeks before at my father's dinner party for his birthday. Not the right time, I told Stewie, but luckily for me, he was a guy that really wanted to be heard. So when they asked me the question, I had the strength in which to know what Stewie and Fraser would have wanted to do, and I agreed. But the questionnaire that followed, and for both Stewie and Fraser, was long, and it was exhausting. And every time there was a break, I used to leave that room and go back and say goodbye to my child yet again. The surgery didn't happen till the next day, and so I went home to be with my daughter, possibly the hardest moment of my life, leaving my son with his heart beating. I got a phone call the following day explaining that Fraser's organs had been donated. His heart went to a baby boy, his lungs went to a child, and his kidneys and his liver also went to other people. And that's what got me and my daughter and my family through Christmas, understanding that life is a gift and it's the gift of life. But from all of that trauma and from all of that questionnaire, I realized that there was something that needed to be done. We needed to talk about this taboo subject. And how should we do that? People needed to understand that not only consent needs to be given, but it needs to be given and the paperwork completed. When you as a family are at your most traumatic state, you need to have had that conversation before. Now, we called Fraser Bear, after a famous shop, and also for our lover Bear Grylls. And after Fraser died, bears were donated to all his classmates. And the bear started traveling around the world. Actually, his first little venture was with the National Geographic Trip of the World. We now have in a region of 2,000 to 3,000 bears that travel the world, talking about organ donation. And I realized very quickly that this was a fluffier way. Children view organ donation about being about life, but it's adults that are scared to talk about it. Scared to talk about it because we see about being about death. And once you have that with trauma and grief intertwined, we really needed a stopper. So our bear was a way of entering into that conversation. There's also another famous bear from Wales, and that's called Super Ted. And then 8 years ago, I managed to have a Skype call with Mike Young, the creator and animator behind Super Ted. He called me from LA and said, I'm going to complete a PSA. A PSA, after I actually looked at what it meant public service announcement. So I went about to write a script. Not from my view, but from Fraser's, a 7-year-old boy. This animation was then translated into Welsh and English. And again, we went around the schools talking about it and auditioned in the region of over 200 children over 5 schools. We launched the animation on the 1st of March, St. David's Day, obviously, in both Welsh and English. And it was going to be launched in Cardiff Castle with bells on. But sadly, Storm Emma decided to arrive that year. The first time we'd had snowfall in March forever. So I launched it off my laptop. But luckily for me, it became a success. It's reached in the region of 8.2 million people around the world. And I'm really proud to say we've now translated it into 8 more languages to encourage those conversations between different cultures, different communities, but again showing the world how Wales began. So Wales are leading the way, aren't we, in relation to organ donation? Sadly not. At present, there's 400 people in Wales waiting for a transplant. We have the lowest consent rate of all of the UK nations, with over 35% of families not giving their consent. Coupled with this, only 27% of parents donate their children's organs. So we need to open up this conversation again, guys. And how best to do it, but to do it from grassroots level. In December last year, I launched the first organ donation memorial garden. But in addition to it being a memorial, we're talking an educational garden. We've got a heart in the center that can be viewed from space. It's got quotes within the heart to dispel some of these myths and misconceptions. My quote is that my son looked like an angel after his donation. And then around the garden, we've got handprints from inspirational people connected to Wales. So we have sporting superstars, singing sensations, and of course, our own very special Bear Grylls and Mike Young from LA. So you can go to the garden and you can find your match. And even if you can't, you can have a virtual tour of it. But like any garden and like any idea, it needs to grow and it needs to expand. So what better way than use what's in our garden? We have 40 fruit trees that were donated, and this year we transplanted, see what I did there, the first tree that was from a local high school, and we hope to encourage that within them. We also look to start a new project, utilising NHS waste to make benches, to again show how much the community supports. But with any idea, we need to really cement this idea from grassroots and encourage those conversations. So for me to you today, if there's one thing that I would suggest that you do, is listen to the words of Fraser in our award-winning animation. And that's, believe in yourself, believe in the gift of life, have the conversation, because together we can continue to make a difference. Believe. Be.